Hi everyone, Ron Crider here. Today we're going to build a log in Natural Log 9, and this log is for EWTN, the A Clock. The A Clock is used frequently throughout the broadcast day, mostly on the weekends. And you'll notice here on the A Clock, you'll see that there's a 2.5 minute break at the very top of the hour, a 1 minute break at the bottom of the hour, and a 1 minute and 15-second break at the top of the hour. So let's get started putting this together. It's predominantly used for Catholic Cafe, Bookmark, Register Radio, Blessed to Play, Vatican Insider, and so forth. So here what we're going to do is put in the first line entry in this log. And we clicked on it, and we're going to put in the time. And we always start everything at the top of the hour. In this particular case, it's 00 or 12. Looks like 12 o'clock, but it'll be anything when you put it out. Now, what I'm going to put in here is the name of the log. One of the things I need to point out to you is when you build a log in Natural Log, it always begins with the ampersand. And the ampersand, you'll see I just put that in there. Then the next thing we want to do is put the bracket in there. These are these little square things. And make sure we put the right one in there. And we'll put the wrong one in first and then put the correct one in. But there are little square things, and that usually you do not have to hit the shift key to get to them. At least on my computer, you don't. And the C stands for comment, and it's going to start the log off with a comment. And then immediately past that, I'm going to ultimately put a asterisk there. An asterisk means in Simian language, this is the Simian Automation System, that do this immediately as soon as you get there. Now I label this EWTN domestic, and this is a clock A. Now the difference is that the classic clock would be doing something different than the domestic clock. So I want to make sure that when we go looking for it, it'll come up and it'll say the right thing. And we're going to put that in there at the very top. That is the first item that's going to be on the log. And I will then move on to the next item will be at exactly the same time. And it'll be coming up here in just a second. I've already done the video portion of it, and now I'm adding the audio to it. So I'm kind of following along with you and watching what I have already done. I wanted to use the better microphone rather than the computer microphone. So here I'm going to put in the same time again, exactly 00 or 12:00. And then this is going, because we're using a switcher with the automation system, we're going to put in here the ampersand. Everything begins with an ampersand. SW1L, which means put the switcher on switch position number 1, and that will then let the computer play the information that's supposed to play. And then we leave a little bit of space and we put this information in that I'm typing in there right now. This information I'm putting in here right now will only appear on the log. It doesn't appear anyplace else. So you want to put enough information there that you know exactly what's going on. So in this particular case, it's going to turn the switcher on and it's going to let the computer play the break that we're going to put in next. Now the next event that we're going to add here will be the actual break. But again, I repeat, everything begins when you're building a log in Natural Log or Natural Grid with the ampersand, then the file name, SW1L, as you can see here, SW1L, and I put the information past that. I'm going in here right now and correcting my spelling. Apologize for that. But get in a hurry and you do things wrong. It wouldn't affect anything, but I hate to look at something and say I could have fixed that and I didn't. All right, the next event we're going to play here is we're going to set up a spot break. And again, it's going to be at exactly the same time because these things are going to fall one right after the other. And the spot break is going to be, I'm going to set it up because it is 2 minutes, I'm going to set it up for 4 spots. Now, the reason I'm going to set it for 4 spots is we could actually put 2 30s in there, or, 4 30s, or 2 60s, or 1 2-minute spot. Now, this next thing I'm going to put in here is the fact that the break is going to be 2 minutes long, and that is the maximum length of the break that you see. I've just put that 2 minutes in there. And so regardless of what happens, it will either put a 2-minute spot in there, 2 1-minute spots, or 4 30s, or some combination thereof to make it work. And there you can see where they are. And that's what's going to take place at exactly the top of the hour to fill up this 2-minute spot break. But as I showed you at the beginning, the clock says the break is 2 minutes and 15 seconds. But I prefer to have a separate dedicated cart play as the intro to these programs. So the next event will be set at 2 minutes, and I'll put that in here in just a second. And that will follow immediately following these spots, or that spot, whatever will play. And that will then play right before the beginning of the program. Now, this is known as a hard break. It's a hard break because these events will take 2 minutes and 15 seconds. If your spots were to be long in there, they would get cut off. So you always want to make sure when you're building spots in for an automation system, like I've set it up here, and to make sure it times out, I always make those spots just a tad short. Like a 60-second spot would be 59.5 seconds, something such as that. Just a teeny bit short, because it's better to have a little bit of dead air before joining a program than it is to get something cut off. Now, right here is where I'm putting the spot that's going to play immediately before the program is supposed to start. So this is going to be a cart, and then I will put things in that cart after we get it built. And normally what I'll do is I'll put in a station promo for 15 seconds, and I may give the temperature in there in that particular cart right before the actual program starts. And this is going to be a 15-second event. And so I'll put that information in there. I'll set it for 15 seconds. Say it's a local break. Put that in there, and bingo, there we are. Next event that I'm going to put in will be the metadata information. Well, actually, the next event, I apologize, it's not the metadata information. It's going to be the SW4L, which means 4 is the input source for the satellite receiver for the domestic channel, and that is what's going to start next. So we'll put that in here. And that's in at 2 minutes 15 seconds, SW4L. That will switch the satellite receiver on the air. That will be a macro inside that cart that tells it to do that. I call all of mine SW1Ls, SW2Ls, SW3Ls, so forth and so on for the various parts of the switcher. This happens to be an 8-channel switcher, so we could switch up to 8 different things on the air. I like using the switcher and the audio card because in the event the computer should fail, you could keep the satellite on the air or run it through a board or anything, and you wouldn't have to be going through the audio card of the computer. And that's a real big advantage in the event you have a computer issue. By having an extra switcher in there, you can bypass the audio card and stay on the air. So that's why this one is built the way it is. So this is going to be the SW4L, and that's going to start immediately following the 15-second spot that plays right before the network starts. And it's going to be totally fill up this break and start it at exactly 2 minutes and 15 seconds past the time. And I also put in there a asterisk, and the asterisk it means do that immediately. So this is a hard break. It's 2 minutes and 15 seconds long, and if anything in there were to run too long, it would get cut off. So you always want to make sure it's just a teeny bit short. So as I said earlier, it's better to have a teeny bit of dead air than it is to have something chopped off. The next event that I'm going to stick in here is the metadata. Now, the metadata is very important as far as we're concerned, because metadata tells you what the program is going to be that's on the air. Now, I'm going to put a generic metadata file in here, and I'll ultimately change it when it comes time to actually use this clock. But metadata will show up on your iPhone, Android phone. It'll show up in your computer, anywhere you're listening to this radio station on TuneIn or wherever, and it will tell you what program is on the air, because we will have put that information into that audio file. Now, it all sounds very complicated, but it really isn't, because once it's done, it stays done. So this A clock I will eventually modify just a little bit for each program so that it'll have the right metadata in it. And we can move them around and play them anytime we want to. We don't have to come in and change any of these times, because you'll see at the end that we can plug them in any hour of the day, any hour of the 168 hours in the week, and it will automatically change all the times and all that stuff for you when you put it together. So here's where I'm sticking in the metadata. Again, starting with the ampersand. And I'm just going to put a generic name in here for the metadata so it plays. Now, the interesting part about it is once the switcher switches the satellite on the air, this is going to play, but it's not going to play out over the air, because it can't play out over the air because the satellite's playing out over the air. But the channel that sends the information, the metadata information, is live, it's up, it's on the air, and it sends that information out. And on a blog, I'm going to show you how all this stuff actually works together, and you'll see the results of what has taken place. I can tell you this, metadata is very, very important, and it's becoming increasingly more important as more people listen to the internet, listen to EWTN or your programs on internet radios. And by the way, there's been millions and millions of internet radios sold. And that metadata information scrolls across the top or the bottom of your screen and lets you know exactly what's happening. Tells you what number to call. If you're playing an underwriting spot, it will give you the information as to who the underwriter is. It will also give you the phone number of the underwriter, and that stays up as long as the underwriting spot is being played. This particular piece of metadata is going to stay up when the program comes back on the air at that time until we go to the next break. That'll remain there as long as until we get to the next break, and that will give you the name of the program, the personality of the program, and whether you can call in for that program or not. Now we're coming down to the break at the bottom of the hour, and we're going to fill that break in. And what we have to do down here is we have to hit an SW1L. Now, the SW1L says, okay, at exactly this time, switch the satellite off, turn the computer on, and have the computer play the spot set, which is basically only going to be one spot. So it's SW1L, and it's going to have an asterisk in there, because the asterisk says no matter what's going on, stop what you're doing and do what I'm telling you to do right now. So that's why the asterisk is there. Always remember, everything starts with the ampersand, has the file name, and in this particular case, it has the asterisk. Now, we're going to start a spot set, and this is going to be a 1-minute spot set, but I'm going to set it for 2 spots. So we could play 2:30s or one 1-minute spot in here. That's a product of however you're going to schedule your spots, but you don't have to do it. The natural log will do the scheduling for you. So I'm setting it for 2 spots, and it will play either 160 or 230s. The length of this break, when I put it in this window, is only 1 minute. That's all was going to play in that break. And this says it's a mandatory break. It must play, and it's coming locally. Hit that button, and bingo, there you see 2 lines which is where those spots will eventually be, or one spot. Doesn't make any difference if there's only one spot in there and it's a minute long. They know the break is exactly 1 minute. The system will then move on to the next event. Now, the next event immediately following these two spots playing, or one spot, but not to exceed 60 seconds, will be the SW4L again. Because the SW4L is going to say, go ahead, turn the satellite back on. That will be, SW4L will be there, and it will also have an asterisk, because that means do this immediately. So it leaves with an asterisk, as you can see up top, and it returns back to the programming with an asterisk, because that means do it immediately. Okay, now we're waiting for Ron to go ahead and put the next line entry in. As I was saying, I did the video first, and now I'm adding the audio to it because I wanted the audio to be as clear as possible, and I don't like using the computer microphone. I much prefer to use a regular professional broadcast mic, which is what I'm doing right now, so I'm kind of talking to the video and watching it with you. Now here I'm going to put back in here the time, which is going to be 31. And the easy thing, what you can do here, is just put in the ampersand and the SW, and it will bring it up for us. There's the ampersand, and you'll see the SW coming up here, and then you'll see me click on the drop-down menu, and right there it is. It's a local event. So it's going to switch it back on. One more thing we have to do. We have to put the metadata back in again. So we're going to go back up here and add that immediately following that event. And we'll use the same metadata that we used above, because in this particular case, it will be whatever program is on the air. Now, the A clock, which we're building right now, is generally used on the weekends, and it's used when they have two 30-minute programs, so to speak, in a segment. So there'll be a different program at the bottom of the hour and a different program at the top of the hour. So there we go. We've added the metadata in. We finished that break, and we're going to move into the last break of the hour, which is going to be at 58:45. There'll be a 1 minute spot at the top of that break, and we're just going to repeat this again and do it exactly the way we just built this last break. And we're going to have to put in here the time, the SW1L, which means the live, turn the switcher on to position number 1 to play the spots, and it's at 58:45, and it's going to have a asterisk in there. Local spot, save it, and now we'll go down here and we'll put in a spot, the 1 minute spot. To click on there, then go up to the top and tell it it's going to be a spot break. Give it the time first. 58:45 rather. And then go above there and do a spot break. Start a spot break. We're going to give it, it's a 1 minute break, but we're going to put 2 spots in it. We're going to tell it to do 2 spots. That 0 means it's mandatory. It must play, and it is the utmost. 0 is the highest priority, mandatory, and the local break. Now that 1 or 2 spots will play in there, and the final event of this hour will be the station ID. So that's going to be at 59:45. We're not going to put an asterisk in there for the 59:45. We'll let it bump right into it and play it at its will. That seems to have worked out best for me on all the logs I have built lately. We're going to call it the ampersand and ID CT or ID cart. I'm not sure what I think I called it, ID cart or ID CT. And that's going to be another cart, and that is the station's legal ID. And that's going to be the last event of the hour, and that's going to be for 15 seconds. Here you go. It's going to be a local event. And there you go. Now, we have way too many lines in here. We don't want all these lines in here because when it starts running the log, it would try to stick all those lines in there. So we're going to go in there, take those lines out, and we're all set to go here. So the log is ready to go, and we've got our top of the hour break in there. We've got the break at 30. We have the end of the hour break for 1 minute. And this clock will become the A clock. And all the rest of the clocks you build, A through M for EWTN, you will want to remember it's either going to be a domestic clock or it's going to be a classic clock. Now, if it's a classic clock, where I said in here SW4L, depending on what your switcher is, I would call it SW5L for the classic because we put the classic input on the fifth input. So SW1L stands for putting the computer on the air. Actually, SW2L is the console, so put the audio console on the air and you can go live. And I don't have anything. I didn't use anything for number 3. 4 was satellite, domestic, and 5 was classic. Actually, 6 was relevant radio, so you don't have that in here now, but there has to be a different clock for each one of those. As I said, this clock is pretty prominent on the weekends. They use a lot of A clocks on Saturday and Sunday on the classic channel. Most of the programs are, for example, as I said earlier, Catholic Cafe, Bookmark, Register Radio, Blessed to Play, Vatican Insider, Light of the East, programs such as that. And so you'll find that this A clock will get used quite a bit. Next thing I'm going to show you in just a second here is how you're going to use this and how flexible it really is. This natural software, Natural Log 9, is fabulous. They have great people out there. By the way, I'm not shilling for them. I'm just telling you I've used their products, both Natural Grid and Natural Log, and I've had exceptional experience. They have great support, and this is just the tip of the iceberg, what I'm showing you here. But if you get into trouble, you give them a call, and they'll be happy to bail you out. They don't have a service plan that you need to subscribe to in order to make it work. Although they do from time to time upgrade it, and when they do upgrade it, you have to pay a little bit of money to get their programs updated. They also have another program called Natural Music, which works with Natural Log, and if you're a music station, you can integrate your music and have it sort all the music out for you and so forth. When you hit close, that saves the program. You don't have a save, but you hit close and it will save it for you. Now, so here we're coming back to, we went away, we're coming back to the log that we built. And you'll see when I get to that, it's going to say EWTN, the A clock, and there it is. And then we're going to go, I'm going to show you how you can make use of this. So we would go up here and do a mass change, and we want to put it into the real normal station log, which is here, and this is 168 little squares, and you can paste this clock anywhere you want it according to the grid for EWTN. And I'm just giving you an example. This is not exactly how we're going to do it, but right now I pasted some in at midnight, at 7, and I'm not going to paste any more in, and you just go over there and hit the button, and bang, all of a sudden this A clock will appear wherever these little red lights are. So it's very, very flexible and easy to put it in. You can come back and change it anytime you want to. And then at the end of the day, you're going to have all those little squares filled in for the 168 hours of the week for your EWTN programming schedule. Now, this program sells for like almost $1,300, and that includes the one station. If you have more than one station, you have to add an additional $300 in for each station that you want to have different. Like, for example, Catholic Radio Network has 10 radio stations at least, and so they have 10 different copies of this for each different station, unless your stations are going to do the log exactly the same way, and then you could actually double up a little bit. So it's a very unique program. It's wonderful for a commercial radio station, and for stations like the Catholic Radio Network, who schedule a lot of underwriting spots. It's very easy to do. It keeps track of them. It's also a accounts receivable program. It keeps track and does all of the billing for your underwriters, and it will create affidavits very, very easily, like a push of a button, and there you go. You'll have an instant affidavit for when each spot played for the hour, minute, and second of the day. I just can't say too much about this program. It's one of the best things about it is that it is a buyout. You buy it, you own it, you pay $1,200, $1,300 for it, plus $300 for each additional station, and there's no additional money that you have to pay like some of the other programs are, like $150 a month, $100 a month, $200 a month. That's way too expensive for little small stations, and especially some of the little LPFM stations. You can really get away with using Natural Grid. Natural Grid only costs $100, and you have to build it through a bunch of carts. It's not as flexible, and it's not a fraction of what this program is. But I highly recommend this to you if you're operating a station like, for example, in Atlanta, the new WCFO in Atlanta. Although they're not going to use this particular program, they will have a scheduling program. And it's very important when you're in a big major market and you have expensive radio stations. You have to do a lot of good underwriting, and you have to be able to treat your underwriters like they would be treated by a big major broadcaster, and you want to look professional all the time. So, again, I suggest to you this is the right way to go. And if you have any questions, always feel free to give me a call. I'm going to give you my phone number, but I suggest you text me so I know who you are, because I get tons and tons of calls that I don't want to really answer from people who are always trying to sell me something. 772-913-2209. I very much appreciate you watching this video. And if you have any questions or suggestions, it's roncryder@gmail.com. RONCRIDER@gmail.com. And you have a blessed day. Thanks for watching. Look forward to seeing you again, and be well.